Hello and welcome to the Bold Leadership Stories show, where we talk about the experiences shaping exceptional lives. And today I'm honored to have the opportunity to chat with Dawn Schultz. Sorry about that. Dawn Schultz has been doing a lot of these. Dawn Schultz began the program, and it's amazing, here in Temecula Valley, called Dresses and Dreams Project. It's an organization. Are you a 501c3 now?
Yes.
And it's an Operation Prom. It started as Operation Prom Girl in 2013?
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
and then you moved to the IE from Los Angeles, and your background is in makeup and being a makeup artist.
Correct.
So how long did you do that for?
Over 25 years. Yeah.
Wow. So it's a big switch for you.
Yeah. I would still be doing it. Well, when we age out in that industry, and I'm just being honest, but I actually would still be doing it. But I had a disability overcame me, actually several. Primarily, it was with my hands. And my working hand was the one that first
Okay.
started exhibiting signs of just different things, and then some autoimmunes. And so I just got put on full-blown disability and kind of lost my career in that area.
Okay.
Moved out
Well,
here. Yeah.
it's not it's the ability to overcome these kind of challenges that really make the story and create the success, right?
Right.
So
Right.
what was the inspiration that you had to create the Dresses and Dreams project?
Well, let's see. Do you want the whole story, like
Well, yeah, I
from
mean, you were a career makeup artist up in Hollywood, I'm assuming, right?
in Los Angeles County? Yes.
Yeah, so
And
I mean, that's like Mecca for a lot of that type of work, and you were doing it for 25 years. I'm thinking you were probably well known and had, very well situated there doing that work. But then you were hit with this surprise and then had to make some changes. What inspired you to go that direction instead of looking for something else?
so um, Well, I moved over here. I was a single mom and I had three kids. And
Mm,
I moved over here from Los Angeles County because I heard that the rents were cheaper out here. And we just wanted to get something a little bit more, for the money, and probably a better area also for my kids. And so I had a sister who was already living up here, and she would talk to me and every now and then and say, you guys should move up here and yada yada. And
so
so
is your sister older or younger?
my sister's younger. I'm the oldest.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay. How many
I have a
kids in your
brother and a
family?
sister.
Okay. And
Yeah,
is she still in the area?
she is. She actually does Daisy Dukes. It's a mom and pop shop, and it's in Canyon Lake, kind of by the
Okay. And
Canyon Lake post
so what do
office.
they do?
They actually, it's an amazing shop, actually. It's kind of a patriot shop, and they do gear towards, like patriot gear as well as custom gear. They do t-shirts, they do women's clothing, and it's just a really cute little boutique, and they have a lot of activities and a lot of events that they do as well. Bingos, where they dress up. They had a Dolly Parton bingo one time,
Oh,
and
very fun.
yeah, it's a fun shop, and that's in Canyon Lake. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you're able to keep in touch and you see each other frequently, I'm thinking.
Not as frequently as I would like to, but
Really?
we're working on that.
Well, I know you've been busy because we've had this interview scheduled a couple of times, and you've had just lots of really exciting things going on. You just finished one of your big events, and you're still smiling. So it must have been a success.
It was great. It was just Saturday, and we had a lot of girls show up to that, and not only did our objective with the Dresses and Dreams project is not just to hand a girl a dress and let this girl know that, she's going to go to the prom and look gorgeous. We also want to let her know who she is and that she's seen, loved, and valued, not only
Mhm.
by us, but by God, by her creator. And we also want to interject the fact that when that dress is gone and when that makeup is washed off your face and you have a mirror in front of you and you're looking back in that mirror, do you really know who that person is? And so, we talk a lot about identity. We talk a lot about just the things that a girl would need, like removing stumbling blocks so that she can find her pathway to purpose. And oftentimes these girls are trauma victims and they're still being victimized, or they came out of the other side of trauma but have had no healing. We also deal with a lot of fosters. So therefore, there are these stumbling blocks. And I know in my own life, unless I move those stumbling blocks, I couldn't get to the other side of what God had for me, because there was always like a block. And unless those blocks were uprooted from the root system, from the foundational level, I couldn't really find any real freedom. So we talk to girls, we inspire girls, we give girls hope, we have speakers. We just do a multitude of things. We have music where we get up and dance. If you hear a Michael Jackson off the wall song, get up, it's time to dance. Whoever dances the best, we're going to throw out some prizes. So we keep it fun, we keep it upbeat, but we also get very serious. It's time. We're living in a time where we need to get serious and we really need to start stepping up to the plate for our youth.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. So how did all of what was it that enabled you to pull all this together? You've been doing this, how many years you've been doing this now?
This was our 10th annual Operation Prom
Okay.
Girl event, which is our biggest event that we do at the Dresses and Dreams project. Although it's not the only one we do, it's our biggest one. It takes almost a full year to prepare for this event. So yeah. So I guess to answer your question, well, again, going back to when I moved to Wildemar, I was a single mom. It was a couple of days before Christmas.
Mhm.
I'm looking around me and I'm in this spot right now as I'm talking to you.
Right.
And I'm looking around me and I'm surrounded by boxes. I've always been like this 8-year-old inside when it came to Christmas. And I'm looking at all these boxes. We didn't have a Christmas tree. It was like the first year, I think, that we didn't have a tree yet. And
How old were
I
your
was
kids at that point?
completely overwhelmed. They were still teenagers. So,
Okay.
and so obviously they're not anymore, but I do remember just feeling overwhelmed and feeling like, what am I doing in a town called Wildemar? And what is this all about? Because I remember seeing like horses in the front yard on one street, and then the next block over there would be like a strip mall with a Starbucks. And I'm like, man, I think I have to get a cowboy hat and some cowboy boots, to roam around this place. And so one of the first people I met in the area was Bridget Moore, and
Ah,
she just
wonderful.
took a liking to what we were doing, and she was a strong supporter, And so what happened was I got quiet enough to just, to settle down a little bit and to just really take in, the big move that we had just done. And I was doing the dishes actually, and I had a vision from God about being out here, not for myself, but to help others. And when I help others, obviously, it's like a boomerang effect. You help somebody else and it comes right back and hits you. And
Mm.
so he reminded me of the lady that helped my daughter get to prom when I could not afford to send her to prom due to, my income and being a single mom and whatnot. And I really thought I was going to get into homeless ministry at that time. I had done some homeless ministry on wheels and was teaching other people how you didn't have to be a big shot. You didn't have to, have your name in lights or, letters behind your name. You could do any kind of ministry. You didn't have to go to another country to reach out and help somebody. You could walk 2 blocks in any direction. And oftentimes ministry is found in your own backyard.
Boy, I sure believe
So
that. Yeah.
yeah. And so I was, I was doing some homeless ministry, but when I got that vision, the first thing that I remembered was the girls who would sit down and, the makeup chair and, they would come in and, if I was working for Chanel, so they, there would be like this same, I can remember this specific woman who would come in week after week and you could just tell she was young. She was already getting work done on her face. I was in South Coast Plaza at the time.
When you say
Um,
work done on her face, what does that mean?
she was already, getting plastic. So she couldn't have been any
Okay.
more than 30 and she
Plastic
was already
surgery.
doing the plastic surgery and things.
Okay.
And not that I'm against any of that, but she was really young. And oftentimes things like that would, if they're doing that too young,
Hmm.
uh, that would point almost to an identity issue. So she would come in and she'd have, anytime she'd come in, she'd have $1,000 just to throw down. And what she really wanted was she wanted the connection. She would sit down and this, as well as other girls that would come to my makeup chair, they would sit down and they would start telling me their story. And
Mm.
oftentimes these stories were of pain and were of unmet needs, were of abuse, were of traumas. And the only thing that changed, and the reason that I'm mentioning South Coast Plaza, the $1,000 versus the girl at the mat counter who came in to get a free makeover, the only thing that changed in these girls' stories more often than not, were the faces. And they all were broken a lot. Well, let's just say 95% of the women that sat down in the chair were broken, were telling me stories of brokenness. And they were crying out for help is what they were doing. And so when I was doing the dishes and I got the vision to help a couple of girls get to the prom, the first thing that came to my mind was the girls who sat down in my makeup chair, the women of all ages. It didn't matter the demographic, and how, this may be a way that I could reach out and help a young girl with some of the things that were stopping her from living life to her full potential and getting on the other side to her dreams. And
So when you
so I
say the didn't matter, you mentioned the demographic that didn't matter the demographic. What does that mean?
Well, it just didn't matter what area it was, where people were coming from. It didn't matter what color they were, what area they lived in, if they lived in a high rise or if they lived in the projects. It just didn't matter.
Mm.
They all had a story to tell, and their stories were of a lot of them were most of them were of brokenness and of trauma and of things of that nature.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that is kind of
So
what I
that
mean.
experience touched you
Yeah,
in some very impactful ways.
absolutely. It was my story.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, they were my stories. I could relate and identify with every girl that
Mhm.
sat in that chair. And at that time, I had already had healing in my life. And I mean, for me, I'm not here to, you know, give myself props or anything. I think that healing is an ongoing lifetime opportunity for us. I think that as we continue to um, be on this journey of life, I think that there's always areas that we find that we can either be healed in, or maybe things that are up and coming that we're going to have to uh, get healing for. And so these were my stories that these young ladies were telling, and these older ladies were telling. It didn't matter the age. And I
So
had
how did
already
you
been
come
through it.
about with these impactful stories that
Yes.
I can tell from, the way you're talking, that they were of amazing, daunting challenges that
Yes.
these ladies were going through, and kids too, maybe.
Yep. Yep.
And so that, in hearing those stories over and over again, and relating to those with an empathetic heart, you formulated this idea with with this vision from God as you're doing the dishes
Yes.
to come about, create a solution. It sounds like that could help.
If we can only help just one
Yeah,
person can change, we can change everything, that one person, then her offspring changes when she changes, and then, on and on ad
sure.
infinitum. So absolutely. I
What are all the
feel
things that the Dresses and Dreams project does? I mean, it's not just finding dresses and giving these young women a chance, young ladies a chance to experience a really beautiful, moment, if you will. But
yeah.
there's more to it. It sounds like. Help me understand what that is and
Yes.
what you're able to accomplish.
So going back to that day, I do want to throw this in case there's anybody out there who might watch this that thinks that they're too small, or that they just don't have what it takes to to help somebody else, to reach
Hmm.
out, their
Okay.
hand. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter, who you are. If you have a willing heart, that is all it takes, and that is all God asks for. I have written on my Bible, I actually stole this from somebody else, but it says keep low. Keeping low means staying humble. And
Mhm.
you don't have to have a degree or a master's, and I'm not downing that. By all means, if you do, that's wonderful. But you don't, that's not a requirement. God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And the less that we know sometimes is
Mm.
sometimes where God can use us more and direct and guide us. And so, again, this was an absolute miracle thing, because, and I need to say this because it may give somebody else hope that when God
Uh-huh.
calls you, he's going to provide, and he's going to not only provide the people, but he's going to provide the resources, and he's going to provide everything that you need. And if you're familiar with the story of Moses, it was like me. I'm not good at talking, in front of people, and I stutter, and I've got ADD characteristics and all of this, and I'm all over the place. And he says, you know what, you're right where you need to be. And he reminded me of Moses, and, some of the more prevalent biblical characters, they were struggling, and those were the absolute people that he used. So, I didn't know anybody in this area when I moved here at all. And I used Facebook as a platform to tell people who I was, what I was doing, and where they could find me if they wanted to donate a dress. That is what
Mm.
I did not have. I knew that I was going to help like 2 or 3 girls and have some lemonade the way I visioned it, with some lemonade and little sandwiches, and
Mhm.
that I can maybe do a couple makeups, and I can get somebody to do some hair, but we didn't have the dresses, and that was the challenge. And so, it was just a couple of days after putting out the first ads that the Facebook started blowing up. My phone started blowing up. So I put a little rickety rack out in front of the home that I was living in, and I just made it a 24/7 dress drop off. And every single day and talk about an empath. I'm also an empath, so I cry really easy. I might cry in some parts of this. So
Don't tell anybody,
every
but I do
day, every
too.
single day. And I just want to give people hope. Every day I came home with all of the things that were happening in my life at the time. And
Mhm.
I came home, and that dress rack was full by people who trusted that I was going to do what I said I was going to do with these dresses. Within a month, we already had 100 gowns, and within 3 months, we had 300 gowns. The Wildemar VFW, with the help of Bridget connecting me to that, ended up opening its doors saying you can have, your dresses, your thing here. And I'm like, what thing? I don't even know what I'm doing. But that first year, 18 girls were helped. And now up to date, about 2,500 plus have been
Wow.
assisted due to this program. And
Well,
at
let me
any
share
given
your
time, we've got
website.
about 1,400 gowns year round that we keep with us in stock.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
beautiful. Let me share your website
sure.
here. And then, so Dresses and Dreams Project, a teen and women's collaborative.
Correct. I hope I spelled everything right.
Oh, it looks great. And then, so what you're doing, give just one sentence. What is it that Dresses and Dreams project does?
It's more than just a dress. It's an experience. We not only provide formal wear to girls who have hardships and difficult circumstances, but we also help them to live life to their full potential. We also
That's so
help the
cool.
military. That's coming up. That's the Dresses for Heroes program.
Wow. Okay. It's beautiful. And then I'll show your Instagram.
Sure.
You've got,
We've already started putting pictures up with the event on Saturday. They're starting to
okay.
come in.
So these are gals that are in situations where they wouldn't have access to a dress, and you get volunteers from around the city to donate, and then you help marry the donated dress up with a prom girl, and then she
Yes, and
gets
they
to
get
look.
to pick their own dress. We
Okay.
haul all 1,400 plus gowns, and I'm venturing to say we've got about 2,000, but I don't want to scare myself, so I keep saying 1,400. And we have a crew, two ladies that are the dress managers, and we end up getting a U-Haul. We get the U-Haul donated by a girl named Camille Rosales, who is U-Haul Wildemar and Temecula, Old Town Temecula, and she has been a supporter of us
Uh-huh.
from the beginning. And she gives us the biggest truck that she's got, and that's a big truck. And we are able to fill that whole truck and bring it to the event, unload. We decorate, as you can see with some of the pictures, we decorate to the nines so that the girl really feels special when she comes in to sit down with us. And
Mhm.
so it's like planning a wedding once a year.
Yeah,
And
sounds like it with 1,400 brides.
oh, yes. And yeah.
Well,
And
that's
everybody leaves.
beautiful.
You know what? Our objective, really, my objective in life and the objective for this ministry is to leave people a little bit better than you found them. Let
Mm.
them leave a little bit better than you found them in life, and
Well,
so that's it.
the theme of this show is bold leadership stories, and from what I'm seeing, and I've interviewed I think 35 people so far, and you are without a doubt the boldest leader that I've interviewed. I'm so honored that you joined me today and shared your story. It's ah, so heartwarming to see what you're doing. It's beautiful.
You know, I'll say this. There are not only adults out there today that have lost hope, but our kids have lost hope, and we really need to step it up
Mm,
and hold our hands out to these kids and pull them up out of the pits that they have fallen themselves into, and or that society has pushed them down into. And this is just one opportunity to do that. There are many opportunities. These kids just want to be loved. They
yeah.
want to be loved. They want to be understood. They want to be seen, loved, and valued. And they don't even know what that looks like half the time. So if we can help just one person, just one, but we don't really know how many are truly impacted. There's countless, I'm sure, and we give
Mhm.
no glory to ourselves, all glory to God, because without him, I wouldn't be alive today, actually. Yeah.
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 Oh, amen. So where do you see the future for yourself and your family?
Well, my family predominantly resides, my kids, they reside in Orange County. I'm the
Okay.
only one out here besides my sister and, well, my sister and my mom are out here, but as far as my little fam bam, yeah, I I see myself continuing the journey with not only my family, because my family has gotten a lot out of this. My children have even
Hmm.
gotten a lot out of seeing what I've been doing with this ministry. But I would like to have a program for kids to be able to come to, talking about spiritual royalty 101, just the 101 class about how to connect with God. They're all hungry for it. Okay,
Mm.
let's just say 90%. According to our survey of about 75 girls that were in the room that day, about 90% of those are hungry for God and what that even looks like. And so up the road in September, we would like to have a dignified spiritual royalty 101 class for these young ladies and young
Mm.
men, as long as it's ages 14 and up. And we would do a coffee and crown making with a message. And I think one of the most important messages that I can ask these young people today, or even, well, any age really, is what is love? What is love?
Mm.
And to see how they answer that, and to connect on that level, asking what is love? Because it's definitely a talking point, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, it brings to mind all kinds of perspectives in the light that you're shining here on this while we're talking about your background and the stories, all the stories that you heard and the ladies that you encountered uh, during your time as a makeup artist. Um, it's very impactful because they sounds like could say that love is either non-existent or very difficult to find.
I think love, love isn't found in a feeling, it's found in a person. And that person being a man God, who I know as Jesus Christ. Because I will say this, and I'm not the only one, but this is part of my story. I had childhood trauma growing up as a young girl. There was needs that needed to be met that weren't met as well. And, as I was growing up, things happened. Had an alcoholic father. He left when I was 15. And after I was 15, that's where things started to really hop up in my life. And, I started drinking, started doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing, hanging around with the wrong crowds. And the thing that really, that I could really see when I looked back on that timeline is when the father left the house, things started happening. And that's a whole different conversation about, absent fathers and things like that. However, I think not only did I overcome, um, any type of alcohol abuse that I was doing at the time to just bandage that pain that I was feeling inside from all of those things that had started happening in my life, that I really didn't know how to deal with at a young age. But as I was getting older, I was also looking for my father. I was looking for a friend, a male friend. I was into relationships, and we can fill in the blank with anything that we want, whether it be food, relationships, porn, sex, alcohol, drugs, gambling. There's a multitude of things we can fill in the blank with, because what we do is we stuff. And when we've got pain, we stuff and we bandage. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to suppress the hurt and the pain, but you have to feel to heal. And so what I did was I got into relationships that were not necessarily good relationships for me, or I would find out later that these people weren't who they said they were, and things like that. And all I wanted to do is be loved. Since I was like 3 years old, I was looking for love. I was going to neighbors' houses looking for people to tell me that I was a good girl and not the bad girl that I was told at a young age that I was. And I was always trying to people please. And then there's a whole codependent thing behind that, and that I've overcome, and that, that can still creep up though. But that whole love thing, when you're looking for love in a person and these people can't possibly give you, what you're looking for or what you're needing. And these just the unhealthy relationships. I believe that there's a huge opportunity to talk about healthy versus unhealthy relationships, not just domestic violence where they are beating you, because I got in a domestic violence relationship when I was 15 years old and I could not get out of it. I was being stalked and whatnot until I was like 21 years old.
Wow.
And yeah. And so, but the psychological aspects of domestic violence, and what does healthy and unhealthy look like if I've grown up in a system that was unhealthy in the first place, and that's all I've seen.
Right.
So it's a huge opportunity with these teens. And I'm going to venture to say, as far back as elementary school, we
Mm-hmm.
should be learning what love is, or how to love, when we are in kindergarten. And yet that is not happening now in the schools. And the things that should be taught in the schools, they're not being taught. And so, and if I had it my way, I would definitely make that part of kindergarten. What is love? Teaching love. And because you can, you know, you can find people that are, let's just use the homeless as an example.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a homeless person on the street, and I'm going to sit there on the curb with the homeless person, and I'm going to engage in a conversation with them. If I have something to give them, fine. But I want to find out, where they're at and what brought them there. And 100% of the time, it's because somewhere the love system was lacking in their life at a foundational root level. And most of the time it was in childhood. And so we have huge opportunities right now with our kids and adults alike. So I think the love thing and teaching them about relationships is absolutely huge and needed. And it's necessary before high school, because a lot of times by high school, I mean, we believe in miracles, but before high school would be an ultimate time for the young kids to learn about these matters, about a lot of issues, actually.
Beautiful. Well, and what I love about what you just said is a lot of people could make that observation or those observations, but they wouldn't be willing to actually do something about it. But you've said that in September you're going to start a class.
Yes.
And that's amazing. That's awesome. You're actually going to take action on the idea, and that's really what matters, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just one foot in front of the other. I do the footwork. God takes care of the results. I'm just a regular girl, We're all volunteers in our nonprofit organization.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a nonprofit organization that has gotten multi-million-dollar grants, or even grants, a $10,000 grant, but God always shows up at the 11th hour to provide. And so Yeah, so we trust that he will continue providing for us, and that we will continue to be able to provide opportunities for our youth and our military women as well.
Yeah, tell me about that program. You mentioned that you're starting a new program, I guess, for the military.
Well, it's called Dresses for Heroes.
Okay.
And we, we've always been military friendly, and provided if a military woman would call us and say, we hear that you have dresses. Can we connect with you because we really need a dress? But we decided to put a name on that program. And so it's called Dresses for Heroes.
Hmm.
We had a girl that was actually in the military uh, come up with that name with us.
Okay.
And so about 3 years ago, it became official. We actually have a program now called Dresses for Heroes. And what we do is we reach out to organizations that work with military women. And somehow the word gets out. And as far as we also use social media as a platform to announce those things as well. And then the word gets out, and then those who need gowns and resources come to us. We
Hmm.
don't have an event for them, but they come to us, and we either provide them dresses or we go on site. Like the last email that I got was just last night from somebody from Miramar that is overseeing a military ball function, a pre-military ball function for some Marines at the Marine base up there. And they want to know how we can help them. And right away, we said, absolutely, we can help you. Just tell us what to do and when the event is. And so we either show up on site or they come to us. And it's another way that we can continue giving back, because when we give, God continues to provide for us,
Hmm.
whether it be with our tithes or our dresses. And so yeah, that's what happens. Usually on the average, we give about 500 gowns out a year to or toward our military programs. And it's usually the lower enlisted young ladies that are struggling, absolutely struggling with different areas in their lives, just as we have already spoke on.
Hmm.
And they're usually getting minimum wage. And so they can't afford the bells and whistles for a military ball. And so we hook them up.
Sure. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
When you're looking for volunteers,
Yes.
right? What type of people, what kind of experience, is there any qualifications?
So with volunteers, we like to get to know people a little bit if we can.
Hmm.
We do have a form. It's a very short form. Long forms, I mean, they throw me off. So I'm like, I better do a short form, or people will be like, I'm not filling this out. So we have a short form, and they start out by filling that short form out, and then we can vet them
Hmm.
by inviting them to coffee and finding out a little bit more about them. We also ask that our volunteers have no felonies as far as crimes against children, as far as any well, let's just say felonies. Crimes against children are really what we're looking for,
Hmm.
or any violent crimes. Um, I always tell them, if you guys stole something like 5 or 10 years ago and you've repented, we're okay. But we are really wanting to make sure that our girls are safe that we serve. And I'm adamant about making sure that these kids that we serve are in a environment that is safe and friendly and
Hmm.
loving and kind. And so we just start out there, and we go to coffee. We can always talk. Everyone likes to talk over coffee. And so we do that. And then we just see where they might fit in. No qualifications are really needed. If you want to share your time, your talent, or treasure with us, we will welcome you with open arms. I mean, we get just as much out of this. And I hope I don't sound selfish when I'm saying this, but I feel like we get just as much out of serving as those that we serve.
Mm. Well, yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good to get the results, but and at the same time, I mean, bold leadership is certainly part of it. You're taking a step in faith every day, step out in faith every single day, and that's boldness right there. So, eh, gosh, the time goes by so quick. I've got one more question. You got time for one more question?
Sure.
Awesome. I ask this of everybody on the show, and it's taking a look at your whole life, and I'd like to know the boldest leadership decision that you've made and what were the consequences?
Yeah. Thank you, God, for reminding me. I'm not good on the fly at answering things just because my brain is processes things so deeply. But
Mhm.
I will have to say it's inviting God into our organization to stay.
Mm,
That is was a bold leadership decision. It was not popular. I am not winning any popularity contests. I've got a lot of people who don't like me, and most of the time I have no idea why. I
mm,
had to get, that was a part of my life I had to really have healing in, and God knew, because it isn't about people pleasing, and it's about God pleasing. And, you know, um, the consequences of that were that we have had people that were um, not comfortable with staying with us anymore. And they left because they didn't want God to be mentioned
mm.
in our organization. And we're so cute how we mention it too. We're like, most of us here believe in God, and we are going to start this up with a prayer. We're going to bow our head and we're going to close our eyes. And if you don't pray, that's fine too, but we're just going to take a couple minutes. And we do find that those that are not Christians, they're more than welcome as well. And that we can actually work with people who are non-Christian or who are also atheists. And we seem to get along just fine. And those that are absolutely not comfortable with it, they leave sometimes. And sometimes you just have to let things drop where they may. So
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you.
sure.
Dawn Schultz, the bold servant leader. I love that. Thank you so much for your time today. It's wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you, Jim. You're a great guy.
Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's having that your story and being able to tell it in a way that's authentic that is really valuable for people. And I think that's why they come watch your story. They'll learn a little bit more about you, who you are, and see that you're real.
I am
And
real.
that's beautiful. So
Thank you.
thank you.
God bless.
God bless you too.